Welcome to the Financial Confidence Podcast, where we help you build clarity, control, and confidence through every stage of your financial life. I'm your host, Mike Schuster, and in each episode, we'll explore real strategies, expert insights, and practical guidance to help you make informed decisions and move forward. Welcome back to the Financial Confidence Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about retiring to something, not from something. And my guest today is a good friend of mine, which is Rick Huls, who's a licensed independent mental health practitioner and life coach right here in Grand Island, member of Peace Lutheran Church. And he has over 30 years experience helping people navigate life's biggest transitions and life's biggest moments. And incidentally, Rick and I just talked before we hit the podcast today. I have known Rick since 1989. My older brother and I, Kevin, used to work on a program called the A+ Student through the Grand Island Independent when we were in high school. And we were writers for you at the Independent when we were seniors in high school.
You took phone calls, didn't you?
We took phone calls.
Phone calls from many coaches.
Yeah, and you and I talked every week my senior year because we had to publish that every week in the paper. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's a long time, which is great.
But 37 years.
Rick, thank you so much for being a guest today on the podcast. This is such an important topic. And honestly, you know, I do a lot of behavioral stuff, and you and I have talked about this for a long time of behavioral psychology and finances. Mm-hmm. So I want to start with the biggest issue, and that is what happens emotionally when you talk to clients that when someone retires without a clear vision of what comes next.
You know, one of the things that I've said often, Michael, is that I don't want to be one of those guys who retires, sits in the recliner, and dies. And I think it happens to people.
Well, it absolutely does. And what's funny, you just said that, is my medical doctor just told me that same thing about people. The recliner is the number one killer of people.
And I just had this same conversation with a client earlier this morning too. But yeah, loss of purpose is the biggest thing, I think, and especially for men. And I think loss of identity, and if work was their community, like if they were connected with people at work, there's grief and loss that comes with that. And, you know, I looked this up because I was curious. The suicide rates for men after 55 just continue to raise.
Wow.
It's even worse, believe it or not, after 85. But it starts going up after 55.
So let's double click into this and talk about how do you get people to retire to something? When you're talking to somebody, you know, what are things you suggest or you help in that transition?
Yeah. Again, that word purpose is the biggest thing. Do you have a community? Do you have something like we've talked and we've laughed about pickleball?
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, or the gym.
Yeah.
You know, those are really important things, but also purpose, like with volunteering and things like that, community, church, all of those things can be really important.
Absolutely.
And I've also heard the line, you'd better have a plan when you retire or somebody will have a plan for you. Yeah. That could be your wife with a honey-do list. Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about that couples alignment, because one of the things that we talk about behaviorally with people and is, you know, spending time together. Are you worried about that? Talk about that piece of that.
Are you asking me personally?
No. Actually, I'm just asking for a friend, Rick.
You know that we've talked about this and that it's pretty rare to find a couple who aligns perfectly.
Yeah.
And so why would retirement be any different?
Right.
You know, I mean, whether it's one person wants to travel and the other one doesn't, or one person wants to volunteer and the other one doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be one person maybe is involved in church and the other one isn't as involved. I mean, it's probably that way with about every couple.
Yeah, I think it is that way, and I think you have to be realistic when that day comes too. And a shout out to my wife, who I will say to her that she's been very supportive of that. She knows I'll want to work because of my AA personality. So and so she's okay with me working later in life, which is great. And that's when you said you got to have a plan.
Sure. And I finally talked my wife into 2 big trips this year.
Oh, so, that is good news, Rick.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk. The other thing about behaviorally retiring, and this is an interesting subject, and I'm recently taking another designation that really goes into this, and that's the fear of running out of money. Do a lot of people come to you, or what do you see in that about the fear of money with people?
I probably don't talk to people about this particular issue as much as you do, of course. But the one thing that comes to mind that you're talking about is my generation. We are still the children of the Great Depression generation. And so hoarding, being afraid that you're not going to have enough. I don't know if you notice this in your work, but we are probably more inclined to save, and make sure that our kids have something rather than enjoy it. We could have more fun.
That's exactly right. And what's interesting about that behaviorally wise, a lot of times what we get hired for is to help people show them what they can spend in retirement and remind them. And a lot of things that we're starting to do now is, hey, we're going to create a side bucket for leisure or a side bucket for travel. And then you need to spend that and help people understand that. Because once they get their goal based on inheritance, you should spend money. And behaviorally, it's, when you think about it, it's 65 years of being wired to save money versus actually take distribution. So that's a reason why you should be using a fiduciary advisor or a certified financial planner, a professional, to help you figure those numbers out. So,
absolutely. Do you know how many times your friend Fritz said, Rick, you should have more fun?
Yeah. God bless Fritz too. Shout out to Fritz today. I told Rick we were going to do that today. Yeah. Who is in retirement now. Okay. The third thing I wanted to talk about was it's not about the number, and meaning we find people chasing the number and it's really not about that, correct? I mean, let's talk about that, as far as they reached retirement and now they're disappointed. Talk about that piece of things.
Yeah. Again, it is so much about purpose and balance, and it's not about the number. I mean, the thing is, though, you already have to have purpose and balance in your life before you retire, or it's probably going to be difficult to learn after you retire. I mean, it's really important to have that, like we talked about, whether it's the gym or whether it's pickleball. And, one of the things that I just want to throw out there that I just thought was gold that I just heard about a few months ago is the cycle of grace versus the cycle of works. And if you don't have acceptance of like who you are as a person spiritually, like maybe who you are in Christ or whatever your religious background is, if you don't have that acceptance first and then develop like the foundation, like sustenance, it's going to be difficult. Because what we usually do is we do the reverse. And I'm sure you're going to agree with this. We usually go for significance first in life rather than figure out who we are and what we're called to do. And if you do it backwards, if you shoot for significance and approval first, and then something happens in your life that's a huge disappointment, then you've got to go back to, well, who am I?
That's exactly right.
That's the cycle of works, Does that
make
sense?
And faith is such an important part of that, of retirement, right? Or what you're doing to get to even retirement and instituting that and what you do and how you get there too. And I appreciate you bringing that up today, Rick. That is very, very important. It's interesting because it's not about the number from the aspect of, and I've watched this happen from my own grandparents. It was never about the number. It was about their faith and about their family. And And I've watched that come down through generations of my family, and what they've instilled in us. And they always lived under their means, and there was always an abundance. So, which was great.
Now where the number might be important, for some people, they want to make sure that they have the right number to leave to each child.
That's correct. Yeah. And you're right. Behaviorally too. That is really, really important to 80% of the people we're talking to, or probably even closer to 90%. And we're really blessed in the state of Nebraska. This is a very philanthropic state. What we do, and we do so much charitable giving through our office, especially with retirees, through what's called qualified charitable donations. It is amazing. And again, we help with that number too when you're retiring to something.
And that's purpose too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're giving to something worthwhile.
Absolutely. And a lot of times I just had this conversation with my wife the other day, being called to something too. Maybe that's something too in retirement. Religiously you use that term a lot. Are you called? And I think that's something that, definitely can lead people to their passions in retirement.
Yeah.
So, Rick, this has it's a really important subject to talk about when you talk about retiring to something. So I really thank you for being a guest today on our podcast to talk about this today.
You're welcome.
And thank you for everybody for listening today. And until next time, keep building that clarity and confidence. So thanks again, Rick.
You're welcome, Mike. Thanks.
Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a registered broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Fixed insurance is offered through various independent insurance companies. Cambridge does not offer tax or legal advice.